Hello and welcome to the Rugby Chat podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe on your favourite podcast app, whatever it may be that iTunes, Acast, SoundCloud, Stitcher, all of those kind of places that you can find us. So do that so that we drop into your phone or your device every week and you don't miss a show. If you'd like to watch what happens behind the covers, then the show is live on YouTube at 8 p.m. New Zealand time every Tuesday. You can also join in the discussion on our 5 questions via Twitter. Just follow at DrivingMaul and look out for the questions and use the #RugbyChat. I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, and I will be your host for the next hour or so. And I have 2 of my wonderful regular guests with me here this evening. Just a short hop down in Hamilton, the real Mike Pullman. How are you doing, sir?
Good, Paul. It's good to be here with you tonight.
And much further south, probably in the midst of snow and ice age, it's kind of south of the wall rather than north of the wall. Down is Steve. How are you doing, sir?
I was doing very well until that terrible description of Southend. I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me again.
Oh dear. Well, you'll be all happy because you're in Southland, not Otago. Geez, I'm getting myself all mixed up. That's a long way. Ooh. So we'll be getting on to the Mitre 10 Cup action towards the latter part of the show. But to kick us all off, we are going to start with the Rugby Championship, which is the next big tournament that is about to arrive. And here we go. I've even got some flash graphics for us this evening. I can put the slides up so everyone can see them. So the first question, can the Pumas finally not finish last?
I think so, definitely. I mean, I'm a big fan of this team and love the way they play the game and their passion for it. And you just never know. I mean, especially with the Wallabies and Australian rugby. I mean, who knows what's going to happen there? So I definitely think that it's plausible that the Pumas could surprise all of us and finish above the bottom. Yeah.
It's going to come down to what we see from the Wallabies this year, isn't it? We know they can beat South Africa. They can beat Australia, and they need to do it at home. If they can do it at home, they're well and truly in with a chance of doing it. I agree with what we were saying before. Great team, good enough players. You know, we've seen them in Super Rugby. We've seen them year after year now internationally. They're really breeding some good superstars, and there's no reason why not that they can't. I think they're going to have a tough year because, like we'll probably be talking about soon, I'd imagine, with the South Africans and things like that. Probably, I think we'll have a good year, but Argentina definitely, I think, fully need to be there and deserve to be there. And if they can beat Australia, then sure, they can.
Sorry, I just noticed a comment in the live chat that says, what are we talking about tonight? So tonight we are talking all things the Rugby Championship. We are going to run through the 4 teams, give you our views on how they're doing. We're then going to cut over and have a chat about the Mitre 10 Cup, which kicks off this week, and let you know who we think are the competitive teams. Then we'll finish off with our predictions for the Rugby Championship games and also all the Mitre 10 Cup games as well. So that's what's in there for you. Now, clearly you guys are on the same page as the guys in the live chat. They won't finish last, goes Christian Cately. Joshua Pearce says the Pumas with 3 wins this season. Clearly, I am living in a different time zone to everybody else then, or a different reality. The Pumas in November, they beat Japan, but they lost to Wales, Scotland and England. Back in June, they played England, who were missing, 14 or 16 players, I can't remember that number now, away with the Lions, and they lost 2-0. Yes, they beat Georgia, but Georgia have never beaten a Tier 1 nation. Now, clearly they haven't played Italy recently, but to me, the only team they've beaten in their last 6 outings, or the last 7 outings, have been 2 Tier 2 nations. Now, they are the top Tier 2 nations, but really, with that kind of run of form, I don't see where everyone's optimism is going from.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something there. I just like the Pumas team. I just think that the side, the way they play in Super Rugby, I don't think fully replicates the way that they play internationally. I wish that it would. And when they were first inducted in Super Rugby, I thought, because they were on a pretty good high around after the World Cup sort of time. I still really rate their team, and I still think they're developing, especially like their backline attack play, and from a team that was really, really a dominant forward pack side. But it's just going to take time for them. They're definitely not out of place, like I said before, in the competition. But they're just a team that I think can win on any given day. They're good enough to beat any of the other teams in the Rugby Championship if they have, played to their full capacity. Whether it be home or away. Obviously, home is a lot better for them, but yeah, they're definitely good enough team to do it. So, again, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Australia this year. Really would be an expectation, but they could easily beat South Africa this year as well, even though I think personally South Africa is going to have one of their best years in recent time.
Yeah, I'm actually predicting that they will beat the Wallabies maybe even twice this year. Listen, the Pumas have improved every year they've been in this Rugby Championship, and I've been along, so I've said a lot that they put a lot into all the games, but particularly the ones against the All Blacks, and I do think that they're going to beat the All Blacks some point soon, not this year, but yeah, I wouldn't discount them, but you get what you never know on the day, do you? So yeah.
Yeah, but I guess what you guys are saying that they do pull out the occasional performance, and I guess this is part of what, when we were talking last week and we had a guest on from again on analytics, and he was saying about that showed a lack of cohesion in the squad, lots of change, and with the players not playing much with each other, and so maybe we'll see the sort of the shock performances. And we saw it against Ireland, but Ireland at the Rugby World Cup, but Ireland had got a lot of players missing at that point. And the Pumas had that full block of the summer to prepare for the Rugby World Cup, but that's very different than this sort of season where they're changing coaches from Jaguares into the Pumas. So that's so the current coaching structure has only had 4 weeks, something like that, since the end of the Super Rugby campaign, because obviously they didn't make the finals. Yeah, I'm not. I personally, I don't see it happening. I can see why that. Yes, they do have some fantastic play at times, but to me, they just don't put it together enough to be challenging the other sides consistently.
I think something they need to sort out that's been a problem with Argentinian rugby as a whole recently is definitely their discipline. That's been their biggest problem. We've seen it more with Super Rugby than we have in internationals, but just because of the frequency that you see the sides. But discipline is massive. It's got to be huge. They've got to sort that out. They've got to go games without getting red cards, especially. But they can't afford to get too many yellows. It just puts them at too much of a disadvantage, and that I think has been the biggest killer to their recent history, 2-3 years of time. Yeah,
and that's and I know they do have this view that they're overly penalised by the referees, but that means they've got to learn to be white to white and improve their reputation over time. That's just you just got to suck it up. So that's well, that's not much else you can do when you got when the ref is the boss, as we always say. So the team that we've saying that they could perhaps have a good chance against is the Wallabies. So question 2 is, are we going to see the Wallabies buck the trend of their Super Rugby sides and challenge?
No, we're not. The Wallabies, Australian rugby is in a terrible place right now, and I'm not gonna start talking about the force and all that. But listen, if you talk to people in Australia, they have no faith in this team. They've got no faith in the coach, and they don't give us stuff at this point in time. And you don't need to look very far to see where the problems are on this team. Curtly Beale training in isolation from everyone else. One person says he's slightly injured, another person says he's trying to just get back into the flow of things. It's just the All Blacks, and I'm not being an arrogant Kiwi when I say that. I'm just being an observer. There's nothing about this team that suggests that they're going to beat the All Blacks or even any of the other teams in this competition, apart from Argentina.
Yeah, I can see this season's rugby championship being like a split. Like you have South Africa and the All Blacks, and New Zealand, Argentina and Australia. Sorry, it's getting a bit of feedback from you guys here. Other side from that, for Australia, they just have to concentrate on winning what games they can get. Beating Argentina, that has to be a must for them. But I can't see it going too well for them this year, really. And that's probably slightly bit being from New Zealand as well. Australia is like the most closest rival, I think, to me. So I'd like to see the All Blacks put Australia away 3 times if possible would be quite nice, and I'd be quite happy to see them go down to Argentina as well. Would be quite good from my perspective. But I think the real challenge for this tournament is going to be South Africa. That's going to be fun.
But here's a Wallaby side that prior to the Rugby World Cup wasn't doing that well. He pulled them together. And we got it, and obviously went all the way to the final at the World Cup only 2 years ago. Yeah, there's been turnover. He said he learned from that. He thought that he could continue that, but he needed to rebuild and start again because there was a lot of turnover. And sure, they didn't have a great June against losing obviously to Scotland, but they did beat Italy and Fiji. So he was saying that basically they're not fit. Now, again, having been knocked out early in the finals, he's had access to players. Apparently, they've been running up and down lots and lots of hills, getting their fitness up. So if they get the conditioning right, here's a side that has got quality throughout, has got quality players if they click.
Yeah, and I mean, like I wrote about it this week. They tend to start well in their games, particularly against the All Blacks, and they're there or thereabouts. But I don't think this team, they seem to go into a game with 1 or 2 plans about how they're going to attack, how they're going to defend. They don't seem to be able to change and adapt as the game goes on. Whereas I think the Springboks and the All Blacks are a wee bit better at doing that. Maybe not Springboks recently, but you can't do well and be in the red zone for 20 minutes of a game, not get a try, get one if you're lucky, get a handful of penalties. You've got to play 80-minute rugby. And I don't think they're really capable of that this year.
And I'm sceptical. I was trying to put a little bit of counterbalance to the two of you, and I'm sceptical about the selection criteria, especially. You've only got 1 fly half in the squad. So Cooper, who hasn't been playing great, has been dropped from the squad, but there's no second fly half there, which I think is a big worry for me. So Bannock Curtly-Beale is supposed to be the backup there. And Curtly, whilst he's got the skills, there's been questions about his attitude in the past, but he is more a fullback or a 12. He's not a 10 to run the game. And we saw in the last Lions tour to Australia when they're playing James O'Connor in there, again, another gifted player who has attitude issues, but also a player who is a winger or an outside back. He's not a James O'Connor is not really a 10. I think trying to have these skillful players and trying to slot them, just trying to slot them all, trying to fit them all in, rather than trying to actually just get the right type of player per position, is a problem that the Australians had for a number of years now.
Yeah, I think they're kind of stuck in their own old ways a bit too much too. They're still going with these old guys. They're not really bringing through the youth that's up to the level good enough already straight away as well too. So I think there's quite a few problems, and like has been talked about 100 times over, it's way deeper than just the selections of the international side. So yeah, I think it's going to take a wee while for them to get back to their best, but for the good of the competition in international rugby, they do need to go. And I don't think they're going to get smashed by everyone by any stretch. As we'll see from picks later, I still think it's going to be fairly close, but it's going to come down to, like we said earlier, that full 80 minutes and playing for that whole period and not falling asleep for 20 minutes and completely falling out of the game.
Any thoughts around, obviously, Hooper has now become captain because I've gone just blank in my head as to who's just resigned and said he's going to resign at the end of the year. There we go. Stephen Moore has stepped down and said he's resigning. He's retiring, not resigning. Jeez, retiring at the end of the year. Have they got the right guy in there, or should they have gone for someone else in there for captaincy?
I don't think they had a lot of faith in Stephen Moore to begin with. I mean, I know he's a hooker, but you know, like, you don't take your captain off 60, sometimes even at the 50th minute. You don't take your captain off. And yes, you know, Michael Hooper's been in the leadership, and I think he was vice captain or something. But no, I think the decision there was something had to change, and obviously Michael Hooper's the preferred guy, but I don't think he's the right pick. I actually don't know who it is, to be honest. Maybe in Israel for that.
Oh wow, that's cool. I mean, traditionally your captain's somewhere near the forwards. Putting him at fullback is just too far away from the action to talk to anybody. Folau was when he was one of their. To me, the whole team, a bit like the Waratahs, it's going to revolve around someone like Hooper in the forwards, obviously jackling and messing things up. And if Foley and Folau combine, then they've got some attacking threat in the backs. If those two don't click together, then I think they're really going to struggle.
Hooper has a tendency to panic as well, and I don't think he's got the calmness, really, you know, to lead the team on what's going to be they're going to get rattled against the All Blacks in particular, and I don't think he's got that cool head on him, really, even though people say he does.
And you compare, like you said, to the Waratahs, I should say, just about as bad a team as each other. But you look at certain things during that season and how his leadership and how the team followed him in situations, or lack of those two situations. Compare that or convert that to international rugby, you're going to have similar problems.
Yeah, true. That is true. I think it more down to who was less. It was a matter of like, who else can I choose? He's one of the few players who is inked in on the selection sheet, and so and everyone respects as a player. And I think that was probably where it came down to, as kind of the only choice rather than the best choice of players there. The schedule doesn't help them at all. Starting out with the two Bledisloe Cup games, which we know they're going to lose, the predictions later on are going to be a matter of margin rather than who we think is going to win. Means that they start off on a bad reign of sort of form before they've even really got the tournament underway. They're already sort of playing catch up against either the Springboks or maybe the Pumas if those two sides split their opening games. So to me, yeah, I think everything is against them at the moment.
Yeah.
You're not much going the way of the old Wallabies this year, I don't think.
No. So moving on to question 3. Let me see. I'm going to just bring it up. Suspense. Will a resurgent Springboks push for the title?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, mate. Sorry, dude. World Rugby, like, it's cliche now. I've said it so many billion times, but World Rugby needs the Springboks to be good, and I think they're in every position at the moment to really push for the title. And I think the only team that they probably won't beat is, guess who, the All Blacks. But I'm more confident in them this year than I have been in quite a while, actually.
I've been saying for probably 2 years now that the Springboks are going to come good. They have just way too much quality to keep playing like they have over the last couple of years. Way too good a team. They have to come good. And someone has to challenge the All Blacks. We all know going and playing in South Africa is like a different sort of game, unless you're the Crusaders. But going over there, playing South Africa, it's like the oldest rivalry in the book. And I think this year if the All Blacks are going to lose a game in the Rugby Championship, that's going to be it. Going over and playing the Springboks in South Africa, that's the top sort of match of this whole tournament, in my opinion.
Well, that's traditionally been the classical sort of hardest test for the All Blacks, hasn't it? And the top, the strongest All Blacks sides are the ones that have basically rate themselves on how they've toured South Africa really against the Springboks, or how they've gone and won a Rugby World Cup. You're chuckling away there. Some comments in the live chat that you want to bring up?
No, I don't know what it's about. Probably just talking about Australian rugby, I think. But to me, yes, they beat France 3-0 in June, but the French didn't have their first choice squad for the opening game because the top 14 final, and then those players flew out and joined. So there was no warm up at all, and that wasn't the top class French team that was touring because of that. So I'm not sure how serious we can take those results. If we look back to November, where they drew with the Barbarians, who are a scratch team, and then went on to lose their next 3 or 4 games, including against Italy of all teams. Now, Italy lost to Tonga the following weekend. So this is hardly, we're not talking about an Italy side that's going to be making waves anytime soon. So they're coming off a pretty poor run of form, really, if you look at it that way. But there does seem to be a lot of positivity around them. Yeah, the South Africans just need to keep building the team around what the Lions have built, really. That's the big thing, because they've got so much huge talent that's built up over the last 5 years or 6 years since the whole start in the Currie Cup where they went and won that. They just need to build around form, build around players, be it new players, be it older players, doesn't matter, but they need to just pick on form and the best they've got. I know in South Africa that's not the easiest thing said because of the whole political side of things, which is another whole story. But they do have a tendency to stick with the tried and true, the old firm, which we've seen, last World Cup sort of time. There's a lot of talk about that. So they need to get out of that sort of mindset and just pick the best players, because the best players are good enough. And I think, the Lions are so much proof of that, getting to 2 consecutive finals. I mean, you've got to have quality to do that.
You do. Some of that quality has been left out of the selection with Combrink and Van Rosenberg. Oh, well,
Van Rensburg?
Van Rensburg. That's the one. So those funny names. So those two have not been included because apparently the lack of game time coming back from injury, where Pollard has come straight back into the squad, even though he hasn't had much game time either. So there has definitely been some questionable selections in the squad over there, just like there has been with the Wallabies.
Yeah, but they've picked up Kerwin Bosch at least, which is good to see. You've talked about fly halves. They've picked up some good players there. But yeah, that's exactly what I was saying about going with players like who was one you said, Pollard, back from injury. So fly half is one of those positions for them. With the way Altinyanti's played last year and throughout the whole year, really, he's looked great. But when the pressure comes on, that whole discussion about whether he's good enough or not. But they just have to keep building on that team. They've still got some great talent, and they've still left out a lot of good talent as well. So they've got to be careful about what they do here, and not, because a lot of players very quickly and easily move away from South African rugby. So let's be careful and look after the future, as well as keeping intact what they've got in building their depth.
That is true. I do think Pollard's there because with Patrick Lambie also being injured, their fly half stocks are being stretched. So I can see why he's been picked and why the other guys have been left out. They do have much more depth in the outside backs, and also in their in the other player that they're missing in the centres. That's the word I'm looking for. The other player that they're missing, obviously, is Warren Whiteley, the captain of the side. Do they have the depth in the back row there to cover his loss?
Oh, massively, in my opinion, yeah, hugely. They've got massive talent in the back row. You just look at the Lions back row players that they got in. They got likes of Khaleesi from the Stormers as well, who's just an amazing player. Jose from the Cheetahs, great player in the back row. Oh, they've got depth for miles in the back row, South Africa. I've no problems with whatsoever there. I think Fly House is the big one for them.
It's Fly Half is there. And obviously the scrum half, you got Faf de Klerk heading overseas to sell Sharks. So yeah, they are still losing, as you say, losing players or hemorrhaging players, some would say. That's the Springboks. You guys are much more positive than I am. I'm not sure that they are as going to be as competitive as others do. Then into our fourth question. The All Blacks drew the series with the Lions. Will the other sides have the blueprint now to beat them?
No, I don't think so. Sorry to jump in, but I think when you think about it, the All Blacks were actually fairly poor in that series against the Lions. Some of the players didn't stand up that traditionally do, and Hansen is not a happy man, and he's expecting the All Blacks to dominate, and I think that coupled with the other teams, I think it's a mental thing with them about trying to beat the All Blacks, and they're certainly capable, but I don't know if they've got the magic blueprint to do it.
Yeah, I'll jump on and say no with that one as well. Like we talked about before, South Africa, it's your microphone. That's what it is. I solved the mystery. It's all your fault. Yeah. They're going to be the big ones. That's going to be the big match for them. I can't see Australia will challenge them too much. Argentina neither. But I think they'll get a good match out of Argentina away when they hit the road. But yeah, South Africa is the big one. Do they have the blueprint? I don't think that they've got a blueprint. I just think South Africa's got a team and has capable players, if they get things right tactically and mentally, that they could do it. I don't know. I kind of agree with what you said before about how the All Blacks didn't play the best and the Lions probably played better than many expected. And the same's going to apply for this. If we go over to Australia and play like crap, the Wallabies are fair in for chance. No question about that. Argentina's in for fair chance. International rugby's not that hugely gapped that it's not going to matter. We've got to still play well. And we've got to have our best team, our best players, and we've got to be in form. We can't just go there and expect to win. And that is the mindset that possibly they had against the Lions and did kind of kick them in the butt a bit. But, yeah, you got to go over there and you got to expect a match. And those teams have every chance of doing something. But I think in their own tactics, I don't think the Lions will have taught them too much.
I think like the All Blacks, when certain players don't perform like they would expect, they get taken out of their comfort zone a bit. So I think teams, you have to score tries to beat the All Blacks. You can't set them on penalties. You got to be defensively that much better as well. But discipline, All Blacks give away enough penalties. But I think too many teams try and kick for the post rather than go for that corner and really, really take the side out of their comfort zone. And Kieran Reid, as a captain, I think is still somewhat iffy under pressure in terms of his decision making.
So I'm not sure what his winning record is. I should actually pull that up. One of the top winning Czech captains of all time. But I guess in some ways they do say that was it the Australian cricket team was one of the easiest teams to captain because all he has to do is tell them to do it, and they're all just so good they just did. So in some ways it is a matter of is he just working with the best team rather than necessarily having to be the best captain to get that kind of record. And let's be honest, he hasn't had that much adversity to have to deal with if you compare to other teams and other captains, because he has got such a good team around him. So maybe that might be part of it there. I don't think this All Black side is as strong as it was a year ago. or even now was as strong as it was against the Lions. We've lost. Who have we lost? We've lost the fly half from the Chiefs. Cruden, that's the one. And see, I'm awful with names. That's the problem. And Charlie Fulumina has also gone as well. So we're two more players down. This drain of players, this chipping away of depth, it has got to take its toll at some point. It's not just going to. It isn't a bottomless pit of players that they can pick from. Luatua is another one that would have probably come into the reckoning if he wasn't leaving as well. But there's a number of players like that who aren't and who aren't there now.
Yeah, but that's how it works. Where you go?
Yeah, I just want to show at Kieran Reid at all, but the games that the All Blacks lost under Kieran Reid, I don't feel that he showed, I don't know what the word, humility in defeat. The first comment was, oh, we let ourselves down. There wasn't much credit to the Lions. There's a bit of talk about Sam Whitelock being, maybe a better captain. That's not really the answer either, because, just because the Crusaders are doing well. You're right, Paul, when you say that this All Black team maybe not as good as they once were, but were they going to be ever as good without the likes of DC, without the Nollers, without the Smiths? They're still in that rebuilding phase, you know what I'm saying?
That's why the All Blacks team is so good, because they rotate their get bad, They when it starts to get down to the end, they bring these new guys in, and they're always having that constant flow of up and down. It's like you could go to what, like we talked about before, South Africa. They go to a certain point where they keep pushing these guys. They push them too old, and they go too far, and they're 35, and they're still playing international rugby at the top. And these 19, 20, 21-year-olds are all going over to France, and then you lose a whole section of your depth. That's why the All Blacks are so good. It's like they've got the Geordie Barretts coming in because Ben Smith's going to be retiring or going overseas in 2-3 years' time. You got that depth sliding through every single time. So that's why they're so good. And by 2019, these guys are going to be 25 caps.
Well, there's if you look at things like Charles Piatow has just signed a new deal for next season. Sorry?
Gone from the memory.
Go on.
No, don't want to know about him.
So Piatow, for example, has just signed for Bristol, and his new contract, not this season, but for next season, will be £1 million a year, 1.8 million New Zealand dollars a year. Here's a guy who's going to earn $10 million before he's 30, just in player contracts. That kind of money is now starting to tell. Luatua obviously has gone over because he didn't think he's seen the money and didn't see himself as being a first choice All Black. Fekitoa, the moment he gets dropped and isn't in the squad, he's jumped ship and off to Toulon. So there is definitely, whilst you might not be losing that first choice players, you are losing quite a lot of the younger players in that kind of the fringe players are disappearing, which means your depth after injuries just isn't quite there anymore. And I think we saw that in the locks in Chicago, is the fact that we didn't have enough locks in New Zealand, and that's where they lost against Ireland, missing the first three choice locks, and suddenly they just didn't have the depth there to cope. So it's not a bottomless pit, but players do keep coming through.
Yeah, but what's a loss to Ireland, though? I know, first loss ever and all that, but really, in terms of the overall scheme, great for international rugby. Don't get me wrong, it was great for Ireland and all that. But on the grand scheme of things, what did that game have? It really showed nothing. All it did is we found Scott Barrett, who, to be fair, is exceptionally better at international level than he is at Super Rugby level. He was superb. He's been superb ever since he's put a black jersey on, and he got discovered in that game. And so what? You lost the game, big deal to Ireland. I know. But you discover that talent. And come the 2019 World Cup final, when Scott Barrett scores that try that wins the game, who's going to be complaining about Ireland then?
Yeah, I think, that actually against Ireland, the whole preparation was wrong anyway. I mean, the team were too busy watching the Chicago Cubs and being tourists that week rather than actually getting on the rugby. I think that the jury really is still out when it comes to Kieran Reid. And, I question him as the captain of the All Blacks. I really do. And I think we will have a much clearer idea after this rugby championship, because they are going to be tested, I think, by Argentina and the Springboks. Don't worry about the Wallabies, but Reid really does. He's got a long way to go in my mind. And yes, long Super Rugby career, double World Cup winner, experience, all that. But to me, he's not the same player at the moment as he used to be. That's just my feeling on it.
So a couple of things in the live chat that I also want to pick up on. Someone asked about what happened to Piutau, and obviously he left to go for the money. Someone here said, but when he got to the All Blacks, they seemed reluctant to pick him, and then he left. Yes, he had the reason he was very reluctant to pick him was because they were running up to a Rugby World Cup, and he would have been the next guy coming in after that Rugby World Cup. The All Blacks don't like to bring too many new players in that year and a half before a Rugby World Cup. There are the exceptions. Milner Scudder came through, obviously, and Holo. But on the whole, they don't. It's much more of a planned integration of players for a target rather than doing that, and that's why you didn't see Piutau picking up more caps earlier on, because you had people like Corey Jane at the time who was still earmarked to go through to the Rugby World Cup, but he didn't quite make it. So there are players like that. The other big question in the chat is, what about Bowden Barrett's kicking? Is that what's? Are we worried about that for the All Blacks, or is it we'll get enough tries and actually on his day he's normally all right?
That's a tough one. It really is. It is a problem, but yeah, what do you take? Kicking versus tries. I mean, what's your other option? I know the injury to Geordie Barrett's not really ideal if he was going to be a starting 15. Would he go to a McKenzie to start at 15? What do you do for Ben Smith? You can't. You've got to kind of still play your best team, and the best team still involves Bowden Barrett being your best goal kicker, unless we find something that I don't know, Sonny Bill Williams can do as well as everything else in the world. So you just got to play your best side. I think you'll weaken too much if you don't play like a Ben Smith for a McKenzie and go for his goal kick instead. And so it's a problem, admittedly, but he's still the best 10 and he's still the best goal kicker in that starting 15, should they be full strength like they are in the squad now.
Yeah, I think McKenzie, that's probably his, because I think his future in the All Blacks is actually under a wee bit of, well, it might not be quite as soon as it used to be, but his goal kicking. Geordie Barrett's injured. We don't need to worry about that for the rest of the year. I think McKenzie is more than capable of doing the job. Bowden Barrett, a wee bit shaky, but hey, Aaron Cruden used to be that as well. Daniel Carter was shaky, at times as well. We just need to chill, because he's such a great playmaker, Bowden Barrett. He's such a great try scorer. He's got all the tools, even the great defense. So I think we need to give him a bit of a break, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think the management are happy with him. They wouldn't have made him kick in that final test if they didn't think that, if they weren't going to put their money behind him. So yeah, I don't think that's something that's going to change. I guess Damien McKenzie is an interesting one. I mean, Mike, you've got to seen tweets from you saying that if he's not picked soon, he's going to run off to England or France like other players. But I do think he is signed up for another few years at the Chiefs, and I also reckon the All Blacks see him as a 10 rather than a 15. Now, is that something you guys see as well, or do you think he should be considered more as a 15 rather than a 10?
Well, I'd probably say 15, because if you're going to play Bowden, I think McKenzie is your 15. But the thing is, like, everyone's saying, "Oh, give McKenzie a go at 10," and and stuff. But he's just so good at 15 for me, and I'm sure he'll be good at 10. He's been good there for the Mooloos and Mitre 10 Cup, and he was average for the New Zealand Maori there. But I mean, that's one game. I would prefer to see him at 15, to be honest.
You haven't seen him much at 10 at a decent level. That's the real problem. It's easy to say a player like him should sparkle at loose head prop in the Mitre 10 Cup. Really, it shouldn't matter. But he is good enough to play anywhere on that level. But what we need to see, I don't think he should be anywhere but 15 until a full season minimum at 10 in Super Rugby. So next season, Cruden's gone, McKenzie's your number 1 10. He's got to play injury permitted most of that season. Then we can see if he's really as good as he is supposedly supposed to be there. Does he still convert that good running angles? Does he still convert that opportunity in the hole? Is he still sharp? Does he still make most of those opportunities at 10 as he would normally at what he has at 15 in the last couple of seasons? That's what we need to find out. You can't just throw him into the All Blacks at 10. Like the New Zealand Māori game, it was terrible. It was a terrible game. The weather was shocking. Like, he played pretty poorly. But, no one played very well in that game. It was just everything was wrong for actually showing off your skills in that match. I want to see him more. Super Rugby, he's got to play every game he's fit. He's got to start at 10 next season for the Chiefs. And then we can see what his future holds. If it's a terrible season, then, yeah, maybe he is a 15. But from what he's played in the past, he's a 10 from youth level up. So he needs a chance. A season of that in Super Rugby, and we'll see.
And this whole conversation actually becomes irrelevant if he does go to Leicester at the end of 2018. And I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Nah, he's staying.
I'd be very surprised.
I wouldn't be so sure. I wouldn't be so sure.
I know you've talked to him recently. You had an interview with him, but the All Blacks rarely lose a player they want to keep. It's few and far between, and so I expect him to stick around.
He's a good Southern boy. He knows what's good for him.
Yeah.
Goes home for his mother's dinners. So anyway, enough of international rugby, and let's get back to where the heart of rugby really is, which is NPC or the Mitre 10 Cup. So the Mitre 10 Cup kicks off this week. Who are going to be the challengers for the titles? Let's kick off with the Premiership then. I'd say, Mike, you're straight in there. You don't think you can't see it past past Canterbury then?
Nope. No. Well, I mean, I don't think Scott Robertson's coach now, is he? Because he's got a Super Rugby gig. So, who knows? That might go another team's favour. For my Waikato men, Jesus, it's another tight season coming up. But I can't see anyone but Canterbury really. And there's no education behind that. It's just a hunch.
It's pretty impossible to argue with that, really. Canterbury have to be out and out favourites like they always seem to be this year. Auckland would love to think that they would be up their favourites, but they need to they need to have a big improvement from recent years. What I like to see in this competition, in the NPC or Mitre 10 Cup, whatever we call it now, Tasman, Taranaki, those sorts of teams doing well. They're in the Premiership, and I'm a big fan of Tasman. I really like what Tasman do and the players they bring through and have in their squad. So I'm gunning for a good season for Tasman, but it's really hard to look past Canterbury. And Counties, because they've signed Stephen Donald. He's back.
The Beaver is back, and as Joshua asks in the live chat, if Beaver wins NPC, does he get a knighthood?
I think he's already got one in every New Zealander's heart already. It doesn't matter.
Can Stephen Donald just go away? Seriously? Can he just go away?
Oh, you're the Waikato man. How can you say that?
No, but he has... Are we going to say this, Paul? That man has known what he was doing for a very long time. He's played all of us for fools. And people like me and others in the whatever, we just fall for it. I'm done. Scotty Stevenson's written the book. Good for him. Let's move on. He kicked one goal in the World Cup. Just leave it. Who gives a toss?
Careful with the language. It's a family show. But the oh dear, he is a player who has gone from. I remember him the total destruction of him as being public enemy number one after not being able to kick the ball out in Hong Kong. It's going from being that and being vilified by pretty much everybody to then being the sort of national hero, as you say, coming off his whitebait fishing boat to go and finding that all the jerseys were not quite big enough because he put on some weight to go kicking the winning goal, which, hey, is what he's supposed to do. But it's a great story. And since then, he went over to Europe, was pretty poor, to be honest. Terrible, yes. didn't do anything with Bath. I'm not quite sure where he went after that, but it's come back and is a bit of a folk hero here in New Zealand. I do want to read his book. I want to see kind of what, because I'm sure he did go through some fairly dark days after Hong Kong.
I apologise to the viewers if that offended you guys. I'm just if he does, hey, hopefully he does well, so he proves me wrong. But we'll see.
Are you annoyed about him as a player, or that he left Waikato?
No, it's not about that at all. I don't care where he plays. I think the guy. I won't.
Okay, this would only happen in New Zealand. I love what's going on in live chat here. Apparently, whitebait fishing season started today. It's good to know that we're getting this kind of information here. And also, it's illegal to fish whitebait from a boat, mate. Can't do it more than 1 meter off the shore. So there we go. So clearly, he wasn't fishing for whitebait because clearly he was in a boat. So I'm sorry for those technical issues there. That's clearly, he was in a hut, was he? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, but the only in New Zealand you get facts like that thrown into a rugby show. It's brilliant. I've totally lost all my train of thought as to where we're going with this. Tasman. You've got to love a club where something like half the players have got the club logo tattooed on them. 2 years ago, I think Tasman tried to change their logo. And then they found out that most of their squad had the old logo tattooed on them, and they weren't particularly happy about it. That shows you a club that's got culture and players who really buy into it. So yeah, no, gotta love Tasman, the Macos, fin up, and all that stuff. Auckland, all the players, but not the combinations. I really can't see them turning it round, to be honest. I think we're going to look at, again, Tasman and the Naki being the two sides that have a go, but it's going to have to be, you say, we've got to push Canterbury for that, for the Premiership. But promotion, Otago topped the table last year and missed out in the final to North Harbour. Wellington, second biggest, or was it third biggest city in New Zealand, down in the Championship, not promoted. I mean, how can that be? Who do you see getting? And then is it Bay of Plenty with a team that got relegated? So you got those three teams. Who's your bets for getting promotion this year?
Well, like you said, Wellington is the big name down there. Otago probably call it themselves as well, but. Wellington and Otago have to be a Bay of Plenty, even though they went down. I can't see that make a big difference to them. Good team normally, but you're going to struggle against some big teams like Wellington, Otago, Southland. As for the rest of them,
Southland.
No. Go the Stags. I'll win a couple of games.
Literally, they will win 2 games this season. That's what they got last year.
If they take 3 games this season, I'll be very happy.
Absolutely, they're not. Yes, okay. The Stags are definitely not getting promoted. I'm backing Wellington to get that.
We've got Ryan Tongia. That's the squad tactic. Pass the ball to Ryan Tongia and go. That man is a machine. Watch him. Stags are going to carve up this year with Ryan.
You heard it here first.
It's the biggest signing in Southern rugby history for probably the last 10 years since Blair Stewart.
Oh, dear. So
no one will get my references because no one else is from Southern.
Who is Blair Stewart? I'm sorry. I like to think I know some of my rugby, but hey, when we're getting down to some of these people, yeah.
Disappointed.
Shocked. I say my main goal for the season is to get down to a counties game. We're going to see you down at the grounds, guys.
Oh, we might head on down to a Southend game and see Ryan Tongia play. That would be a highlight for it. Yeah, we could see that. Keep an eye out. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'll be at the Waikato games. Hoping to have a chat with Zach Guilford sometime soon. He's hard to get a hold of. I see. What is the opinion on Zach Guilford? Because I'm trying to figure out an angle from the article. You know, does it mean anything that he's back? Is it a good story, or what the hell? What's going on?
I can't stand Zach Guilford at all. One little piece. No, overrated massively.
What is going on is a total waste of talent. Someone who just drank too much, couldn't control his drinking problem, and then went over to Europe away from his support network and just never made it. He needed a proper support network around him, and he didn't have it there. And a total waste of talent, unfortunately.
He was quick. That's about all I'll say for Zach Guilford.
Oh well, we'll see.
So if you want your angle of questioning for him, asking why and how did you waste all your talent, which may not be a very long interview, but but you can give that a go. Clearly the person who doesn't get interviews with all these high-profile players here, myself. So I think it's time for predictions times, boys. Let me just bring up the slide. So first up, the Bledisloe Cup. How do you boys see that one going?
Oh, you've really got my pick there.
Okay, so for those of you on the podcast, because it's a podcast recording we're doing here, not just a live show. DrivingMaul has got for the Bledisloe Cup. I've gone for New Zealand by 15. The real Michael Pullman's gone for New Zealand by 18, and Cornflake has gone for New Zealand by 11. This has got to be an absolute record, as being the first time ever that Cornflake has gone for a smaller winning margin than I have. I'm supposed to be the conservative picker here, and you've gone for Cornflake. What are you seeing in the Wallabies? I don't.
I just see a desperate team, possibly an All Blacks side who might be already winning this game before they get there. I see it pretty close for 50 minutes. I'll be happy to be completely wrong, but it's just Australia. Australia is just that annoying team that just doesn't go away. No matter how hard you try, they just seem to always stick around and just be within that point. But I think we'll smack them all at the end. But I think it's still going to be pretty tight, a lot closer than I would like it to be, and that a lot of people probably think it would be.
The typical Wallabies performance against the All Blacks. They'll do well for 20 minutes. They will tinker until half time. All Blacks will score right before half time. Second half will be an absolute whitewash. And we'll see Michael Cheika. I don't know, maybe he'll throw himself out of he'll throw a chair or something. That's my prediction. Very decent chair. Much like Stephen Donald, apparently. Sorry.
Okay, and over in South Africa. So I will be, Mike and I, with another guest, hopefully from the Tribe app, will be doing a live post-game reaction to the Bledisloe Cup at midnight New Zealand time. So do get on and watch that. I will not be doing a live show to the Springboks versus Pumas, which kicks off at like 4 o'clock in the morning. But I think all of us are going the same way. I'm going to South Africa by 10. Real Mike Pullman is going for South Africa by 19, and Cornflake in between us on South Africa by 16. So none of us really give the Pumas a hope on the road.
Nah, I think the Springboks, they're at home, and like we've said, you know, they're gonna. Sorry, I've just read the comment here. It's fine there, but yeah, Springboks to win easy. Yeah.
Where's your dedication, man? You should be up at 4 a.m. doing a post-match review, saying everything you thought that happened. I thought you'd be there and doing it. I don't think Argentina have a chance in South Africa. In Argentina, I will probably turn my result right around the other way. Maybe by whisker. See how they play this weekend. If the opening match was in Argentina, that would be a lot tougher to pick. But I think South Africa at home are just too big of a fish for them to fly.
No, I have to agree. Yes, if it was the other way around, it would be hard to pick, but I would not flip it equally. Maybe go. So I might go Pumas by 3 at the most.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't swap it complete margins. No.
Cool. So that's how we see the old. Oops, wrong computer. That's how we see the. I'll just totally thrown now because I'm on the wrong computer. See that one going. So Mitre 10 Cup predictions, my friends. First, so I think we'll go quickly through these. So North Harbour, Otago.
Otago by 12.
Yeah, Otago 10 or under.
I've got Otago as well, but I can't remember what my margin was. I did that video yesterday, and I've just been trying to bring it up, but I can't remember what it was. But yes, I'm with Otago as well. Tasman versus Canterbury.
Tasman by 6.
I'm going to go Tasman by 2.
You've both just been saying how
Come on.
the Canterbury are going to win this by. Sorry, Canterbury by 5. I think I've gone by from memory. But yes, Canterbury are definitely going to get up in that one. Whatever the other two say, they're just wishful thinking. Hawke's Bay versus Southland.
Do you really want my pick on this one?
Yes, let's go on.
Hawke's Bay by 27.
Michael?
Hawke's Bay by 12.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice.
I think pre-season, I've got no idea how these guys have all done. So I think I went Hawke's Bay probably by about 7. But yeah, definitely a home win on that one. So the Naki hosting Waikato.
Taranaki's decent side. I'm going Taranaki by 2 because I just like the provincial sides doing well.
I'm going to go Taranaki by 10.
I think it'll be Taranaki as well, even though I can't remember what I can't get my list up as what I actually did say yesterday. But yeah, I would say Naki also up in that one. Counties versus Auckland.
This is like, geez, this is saying the same thing. I can't stand this match. So Auckland versus Auckland B. Auckland by 6. Just because I don't like counties. Sorry.
Counties by 7.
Oh dear, yeah, and I went counties as well by about 7. You don't like counties? That's where Tana's been, and oh dear.
I never understand counties. It's Auckland.
I agree, it is Auckland. I see it as Auckland as well, but hey,
that's why I don't like it.
Battle of the Bombays and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but come on, a quarter of the country lives in Auckland. If we only had one province here rather than 3, no one else would even have a chance. We've got to give everyone.
You can't say that. Look how crap you've been playing. You got last in the rugby.
Language.
You can have all of that back. You can have counties. You can even merge with the whole North Island if you want. You still wouldn't have got anywhere.
He's not the figure up. Serious now.
For those of you listening on the podcast, yes, I was pointing. Counties will win that one. Northland versus Bay of Plenty.
Ooh, that won't be a bad match. I'd probably go for the Bay by a little bit, 8.
Yeah, Bay of Plenty. I don't really care about either side, so we'll go Bay because it's closer to Hamilton.
This will be a good game. Northland weren't they the team that was on the longest ever losing streak until they won 1 game last season?
Against Southland.
Exactly. So this will not be a good game. I'm sorry. But yes, Bay of Plenty should win that one comfortably. And then Green Buckets versus Yellow Shirts. The Manawatu versus Wellington.
Go for the Bucketheads by 4.
Yeah, Manawatu by about 4 as well.
Now, I've seen a few comments saying that the Bucketheads have got a decent side at this season, but I have gone Wellington on this one because I think they won pretty much all of their games in conference last season, only lost the games when they were playing Premiership teams from memory. Sorry to use whole stats rather than just, hey, finger in the air and feeling, which is what...
So off the heart.
Go. That brings us to the end of the show. Thank you, everybody who has been commenting on Twitter. There has been lots there. The comments on there, there's been lots of chat going on there. And I do see that I put a poll up about who would win the Bledisloe Cup. And the early voting was Wallabies 100%, All Blacks 0, draw 0 after 1 vote. So I think that may have come back a bit since then. But yeah, do get on my Twitter poll. That's always good fun. Please don't forget, do subscribe to the podcast or the YouTube show, whichever one you have been watching. And also do become a patron of DrivingMaul and help support independent rugby punditry. I am Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. Get me at DrivingMaul on Twitter or drivingmaul.com. Mike, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at RealMikePullman, and also go to lastwordonrugby.com for your latest rugby, sports, whatever. Writing. Sometimes some of us get our headlines wrong. Some of us make typos. I really apologise for that.
Don't worry, you don't apologise on this show about that. You can be. It's okay.
Apologies. I just want to throw it out there. It's been on my mind.
So please do all sign up and join in next week for your next group therapy session. And Steve, oh dear me, where can people get hold of you?
The same place. You can get hold of me on Twitter at Cornflakes Crib, same name on YouTube for all your rugby needs and requirements. I won't hate on Stephen Donald. He is a cultural hero for our country, and I do make spelling mistakes as well, so I apologise for that too.
Someone's just saying in the chat that it was probably Beaver who thumbs down the live video. So if you're watching, I'm sorry.
I'm sure Beaver's got nothing better to do with his time than to come and watch the Hash Rugby Chat podcast. So finally, thank you everybody who has joined in, both on Twitter and on YouTube. Thank you everyone who has subscribed to the podcast. It means the world to us, or to me anyway. So I've got to figure out how to sign off, haven't I, buddy? Thank you. Goodbye. Catch us after the Bledisloe Cup game.